This week, we're talking about hard decisions. Yeah, and my guess is that someone in the room right now is facing a hard decision. So for you, this is really a timely discussion. Decisions are hard primarily for two reasons, or harder for two reasons. First, you lack clarity of focus. And most of us, when we lack clarity of focus, it's not because we don't understand what we actually need to do, but rather something immediate has your attention, or maybe your devotion. And the second thing that makes decisions so hard is not just that you're distracted, but you feel like you're all alone. Like nobody understands me. Nobody's around me. Nobody's ever been through what I've been through. I want to talk about that from the perspective of this story in Elijah's life, chapter 18. It begins like this. This is the great battle between Elijah and the prophets of Baal, or sometimes we pronounce it Baal. 1 Kings chapter 18, verse 1 says, after many days, the word of the Lord came to Elijah in the third year, that's the third year of the drought, saying, go show yourself to Ahab, and I will send rain on the earth. So Elijah has run away from the king. He's across the Jordan River. And God says, okay, the drought has gone on for 3 years. Let's end it now. Go show yourself to the king. Now, the king, Ahab, has been looking for Elijah for those 3 years, and he is mad. I mean, hornet's nest mad. He's searched high and low for this prophet because the drought that he caused, the drought that he called for from God, is devastating the nation. And they're trying to find even grass to feed their horses. Like starvation, hunger, it's bad. And so now it's time to end it all. Let's fast forward to chapter 18, verse 7. As Obadiah was on his way, behold, Elijah met him. And Obadiah recognized him and fell on his face and said, is it you, my lord Elijah? Now, Obadiah might sound familiar to you. There's actually a book of the Bible called Obadiah. It's one chapter. So kind of a big deal in his own day, but his book is like a little book. It's one chapter. And it's not even about Israel. It's about Edom. So you've got this biblical prophet who is God's man. He even made it into the Bible. But he's serving the king who is against God's man. So if you read between the lines, Obadiah is like a CIA spook who is working for the king, but is really protecting the prophets. In fact, he has hid multiple prophets in caves to save their life from his boss. So Obadiah and King Ahab are out looking for grass. They're just trying to feed their horses. And the king says, you go that way, I'll go this way. And Obadiah goes that way, and out comes Elijah. And Elijah says, hey, go tell the king I'm coming. Listen to this from 1 Kings 18, verse 13. Has it not been told, my Lord, what I did when Jezebel killed the prophets of the Lord? How I hid 100 men and the Lord's prophets by 50s in a cave and fed them with bread and water. Obadiah is informing Elijah that while Elijah has been running away to another nation, hiding from the king, Obadiah has been sacrificing his own resources and threatening his own life. If he's discovered, he's like dead for the prophets of God. Now, if you fast forward past the message this weekend about the great prophets of Baal and the fire that came down, it was a great, great victory. Elijah, right after that victory, runs away. I mean, far away from where he was in northern Israel. In fact, he goes to Beersheba, which is the furthest city to the south. And after Beersheba, he runs into the desert, another day's journey, all alone. And when God confronts him and says, Elijah, why are you here? Why are you here? He says, because I'm the only one left. That is not true. He knew it wasn't true because Obadiah, before the great confrontation with the prophets of Baal, Obadiah told him, I've hid hundreds in caves by 50s and 50s, and I fed them with food and water. He knows he's not alone. Obadiah came out to greet him, and Obadiah risked his life for him, but he still felt like he was alone. And part of what makes difficult decisions difficult is when we isolate from other people. And we feel like no one's ever been through this, but they have. Feel like nobody cares for us, but they do. And often the barrier isn't from their distance to us. It's from our walls that we're putting up. Sometimes we put up walls because we don't want to be vulnerable, and sometimes we put up walls because we're embarrassed, but it might be time for you to tear down the walls because the decision you're facing doesn't have to be as difficult as it is right now. You make it more difficult by isolating yourself. The second thing that makes it difficult is we're distracted. We have all these idols around us, and maybe it's money, and maybe it's sex, and maybe it's a hobby. But when we get distracted by things that do not matter eternally, that's what makes decisions more difficult. So you're questioning whether you should take a new job, but you don't know if you can afford to do that job that God's calling you to, because it might be less pay, or it might be require a move, or it might be losing some comforts. The distractions that are immediately around us make decisions far more difficult than they need to be because they don't allow us to focus on what is most important in God's eyes, not in the world's eyes. I don't know what decision you're facing. Most of us, from time to time, face difficult decisions, and we make it harder by isolation and by distraction, and that's worth talking about.